So I used to brag about working from 9 to 9, like it was some thing that I should be proud of. Working 9 to 9 is not something you should be proud of. It's when you really need to take a really close look at yourself. When you're a workaholic, okay, the other thing that you have to remember is that you're affecting everyone else around you, okay? Not only your significant other, but also your team members. No one wants to be around a workaholic. You might think they do, but they don't. You know, it's kind of like alcoholism, workaholism. Same thing, addiction. You're addicted to work, and it's something that, again, like I said, you should not be proud of it.
So we'll give everybody about a minute to log in here. Does that camera look a little crooked, I think?
It's a little crooked.
A little crooked?
A little crooked.
All right. This is one thing I have to improve on, getting better equipment and stuff, but...
I'll tell you, there's a company, and anybody listening to this who's doing the same thing. There's a company called Iographer, like a photographer, but it's got the I before it. And they started with iPhone technology, but now all technology. But they make rigs for all of your handheld devices to make movies with.
What's it called again?
It's called Iographer, IOGRAPHER.com. It's all made in America stuff. It's really, really solid, and you do GoPros and Android cameras, and they have lighting stuff, and they have some pretty fabulous stuff. So, hey, awesome. Todd.
Everybody's, Paul, these are a lot of our mastermind clients who come to work with us. Okay. And guys, real quick, while we're waiting for everybody to log in here, I am just so thankful that Paul took the time actually to do this video with us. I was introduced him yesterday from Joe Polish. You actually do Joe Polish's podcast. And when I sat with him for 15 minutes, he blew my mind. And the first thing I said to him was I said, please, could we please do a video tomorrow from our live TV show of Daily Dose? And the fact that you said yes, and we're here at, what is it now, 5:55? It's
5 a.m. my time, yes.
So thank you so much for taking the time with this.
Should we shut that? My voice gets really loud. Yeah,
absolutely.
Going to get the neighbors live from the Embassy Suites here in Tempe, Arizona.
Middle of the hotel room. So a lot of the people on this call are martial arts school owners. Okay. And they're just really passionate about what they do. Okay. Great teachers. Okay. And I think I'm just going to kind of let you take over in a minute. But their podcast will probably be a piece of great value that they could distribute. And the stuff you told me yesterday was just amazing. I thought it was only on iTunes, like where the podcast goes. Okay. So at the end, guys, for anyone that is interested in actually getting the step-by-step instructions, Paul has a book. We're going to send a link for that. You purchase the book, and it'll give you Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about the book and how that works?
Well, funny. Speaking of Joe, yes. I have never wanted to be the How to Podcast guy.
Really?
Okay, because it's not that complicated. The How to Podcast part, it really is not that complicated. Okay. And unfortunately, though, there's a lot of people who are making it really, really, really complicated, and I hate that. Complexity is lame. Unless it's really complex. People make things complex and go away. So I wrote a book with the crazy title of How to Podcast. And it was followed up with How to Podcast 2015. And then the sequel, How to Podcast 2016. And so How to Podcast 2016, it's at all the bookstores, but the digital version at Amazon is $2.99.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah. And it happened because of Joe. Right. Joe, when you get on stage... Mm-hmm. And Tony Robbins is in the audience, and Peter Diamandis is in the audience, and Steve Forbes is in the audience, and Joe goes, if you want to learn how to podcast, Paul's your guy. And then somebody comes up to you and says, do you have a book? You say, yes, I have a book, because that's what they want. So that's where How to Podcast comes from. So it's $2.99 Kindle. But I'll tell you, think about pricing, premium pricing. Here's an interesting concept. The Kindle book is $2.99. Okay. The paperback is $15. Okay. The Kindle book comes to you instantly. And by the way, iBooks is $2.99 and Barnes & Noble is $2.99. All the digital is $2.99. The digital ones come to you instantly. The paperback one isn't enough to get free shipping, although a lot of people have Prime. Guess which one I sell more of?
The $2 one?
The paperback.
Wow.
Like 3 to 1.
Really?
People buy the paperback. And it's not, it's a good looking book, but it's nothing, something you keep on your coffee table or that type of thing. And Scott here wants to wait for How to Podcast 2017. Let me give you a little secret, Scott. One thing I do. every time I update the book, is everybody who registers the book, I have one special day where the book's only 99 cents on Amazon, and I email everybody who registered the book that it's 99 cents on Amazon. And then that way you basically get your upgrade for 99 cents.
Awesome.
So get the 2016 version. I'll tell you, the 2017 version isn't going to come out as early as I hoped it would. It's not like it's coming out on January 1st or anything. We've got some busy things. So
now, the cool thing also, Paul, is you're the voice on Joe's I Love Marketing podcast.
I'm the intro voice, yes.
Could you do it for us once?
You are listening to I Love Marketing with Joe Polish and Dan, that kind of thing.
That's awesome. That's so cool. No, so that was I didn't know that yesterday until you told me. So tell us a little bit about the kind of like everything you kind of told me yesterday. But start with just like what you think they would need to know for most of the people who have no podcasts.
Well, first of all, podcasting is easy. Okay, pick up the book, and by the way, the book is like. It's like 197 pages or something. But the funny thing is the how to podcast part is only 57 pages. The rest of the book is commentary and some interviews and some friends of mine who wrote articles for it. I just knew that if I published a 57-page book, half the world would go, thank you for not wasting my time. The other half of the world would go, short book, 1 star.
Right.
So what I did was I just divided it up that way. So really the how to podcast part is the first 57 pages. Okay? It's easy to do. It's incredibly powerful in ways that most people don't think of, and most people don't realize, and most people don't understand. And the big thing is podcasting is you.
Right.
You, let me get the camera right. You, anytime, any place, anywhere. Now, you got martial arts dojos, is that right?
Yes.
You got dojo owners. You have to be at the dojo when you're open. So you've got some limits by the nature of what it is that you're doing. And so if someone wants to interact with you, they have to go to your location during business hours. I know most of you don't do the 2 a.m. shows. And so podcasting changes to any time, any place, anywhere. This is huge. People will download your stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. People download your stuff on a Sunday. If you're not open on a Sunday, that's a big deal. If you are open on a Sunday, So anytime, any place, anywhere. This is huge because what it lets you do is somebody comes to your website. They want to learn about the dojo. You got a couple of pictures, maybe a video. Now, what else do I do? If the website says, listen to my podcast, now people can spend some time with you at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. Learn about you, what it is that you're doing, what it is that you represent, why your dojo is important, and then they can make the decision after a couple of hours with you, and guess what? You didn't have to have all those tours. You didn't have to have all those questions. You didn't have to have all those, soccer moms coming in and just doing way too much before they write that initial check. They can spend time with you when and where and how they want. People are busy. I don't have a time to schedule to go tour 5 dojos. But if one has a podcast where I can learn about you, I'm going to consume that one maybe in the car on the way to work. 47 million Americans, 30-minute commute in a car by themselves. All you have to do is be better than drive time, which isn't hard.
Right,
and one of the big things is it's you, anytime, any place, anywhere, mm-hmm. which is massive. The other thing that's really interesting is I call it guilt by association. I should probably find a better term for it. But a podcast, my show at iTunes. iTunes is gold. iTunes is high class. iTunes is Apple. They still think Steve Jobs. So it's not, if you have a podcast, that's great. Call it a podcast. I don't care. But if you have a show at Apple, and by the way, and a show at Google, yes, Google does podcasting now. Not that well, but they do it. So you can have that guilt by association.
Love it.
A show on the Amazon Alexa, a show in a Tesla, a show on Windows phones, a show on connected television sets, a show on Apple TV, a show on Roku, a show at SoundCloud. And by the way, it's all the same file on the same server. Oh, and by the way, you buy the book, and there's a coupon code in there for the first month that you're hosting for free. Wow. And by the way, the first month, hosting, depending on how big your show is $5 to $100 a month. A lot of people I know do $5 a month shows. But yeah, coupon for the first month's free, so you already pay back the price of the book. And then you're everywhere. So when I publish a customer of mine, his show went live this morning, and all automated. And here's the beautiful thing: I'm hitting the table, so the phone's shaking. It went to all these places automatically. Okay? I didn't get up at 2 a.m. this morning and go to Stitcher, go to Google, go to TuneIn, go to Amazon, go to SoundCloud. It went to all these places automatically.
Awesome.
And so that's the power. So now you have a show. You record it, you put it up. People can get it anytime, any place, anywhere, and it's now located at all of these places. Now, I live in Tigard, Oregon. Is somebody going to go to iTunes and type in Tigard, Oregon martial arts training podcast? No. I'll say that right now. However, when you send out the newsletter to all your members, and you say, hey, people asking you questions about the dojo, send them to Apple to find out more. Send them to Google to find out more. You know, So there's just some really, really crazy stuff you can do. So, yes, podcasts are worldwide, and you have most of your people today have multiple stores. I mean, usually one geographical location.
Most of them have one location, then you have some of them have multiple locations.
Okay. So, yes, somebody in New York might download the podcast about your Oregon-based, dojo, but that's okay. Because here's one of the funny things about podcast hosting. The company I recommend, and it's funny, in the 2015 version of the book, I tried to be political, and I tried to talk about everybody. Here's the one I recommend, but here's everybody else. And it's funny, I said in the book, here's the one I recommend, but here's everybody else. And by the way, to be my client, you have to be on this host. It's not because, the price is like that. It's not because I'm getting a kickback, I'll tell you that. I was political. I talked about everybody. And then I got a bunch of emails from people, why'd you recommend these guys? They suck. Why do you recommend these guys? They suck. So the company's called Libsyn. And Libsyn doesn't pay for, or you don't pay Libsyn for bandwidth. So if you get 1 million downloads, it's the same thing as if you get 3 downloads. So if somebody in Tigard, Oregon downloads the podcast about your, New York-based dojo, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. So you produce the show, you put it up there, you now have this guilt by association, you now have people to be able to consume you, you now have people to be able to get to know, like, and trust you. You share your differences, you share why you're better. You're with this guy, so you're working it much better than the guy down the street. Right. And that's exactly what you want to do and how you want to present yourself. And here's the funny thing. Here's the dirty little secret. Don't tell anybody this, okay? Just having a podcast puts you into a position different than the other guy. Somebody comes by the store, I want to learn so-and-so. Hey, we do have a podcast on iTunes. What? They might not even listen to it, but the fact that you have a podcast on iTunes is yeah. Right. So true story. My mom, God bless her, she's wacky. She believes that she can't listen to anything her son does because she doesn't have an Apple. Now, a couple things, Mom. I will buy you an Apple. No, I'm fine with my Kindle Fire, So one day I come over, and yes, I do all the tech support, and she has the iHeartRadio app on her Kindle Fire. Okay. I didn't even know Mom knew how to install apps. Mom, why do you have the Kindle app, or the iHeartRadio app? Well, the radio told me to. And they do. They advertise it on the radio. I go, well, Mom, I'm on that app, because you can put your podcast on iHeartRadio. When you're at Libsyn, you email support@libsyn.com, and you say, click the button that lets me add iHeartRadio as a destination, and then you fill out the form, and then you're on iHeartRadio. Yay. So I go, Mom, I'm on iHeartRadio. No, son, this is iHeartRadio. You're a podcast. No, I'm on iHeartRadio. Oh, you're on the radio now? No, Mom, it's a podcast. No, son, iHeartRadio is radio. Fine, Mom, I'm on the radio. So some of you... Yeah. It might be, depending on who your demographic is, who your audience is, it might be more powerful for you to say as seen on iHeartRadio than it is as seen on Apple or as seen on Google. If you've got a dojo down the street from, the Google center that makes all the Android phones, maybe you don't promote iTunes, but it doesn't matter because you're at all those places.
That's awesome. So one of the things I wanted to ask you first was I was giving some advice and trying to help them because to get their audience, I suggested that they might do a group podcast with someone that's in the school system, and then someone else that is also has a connections to local business owners, because that would give them credibility if they don't have the reach to begin with. What would your thoughts be for the schools to start off with? Are they better doing something like that? I'd really rather hear what you say versus what I'm trying to tell them. So my idea first was, if I own a school, okay, you're like the gym teacher at the local high school,
right?
And I want to position this podcast around basically, like a lifestyle for children. So I have you talking about health and fitness, and then I also have someone else over here that has local businesses where parents would take their children, and we work together to just do things like that. It might be a little confusing, but what would your approach be for them? I'd rather hear from you. What would the content be? Would it be interview style, or I'll just shut up and let you tell everybody. What do you think they should do?
Well, actually, I kind of like that idea.
Good.
A lot of questions are coming through, and we can definitely take some questions at the end of this. I should probably answer his questions first. What is your show going to be is definitely a question. And it's funny because a lot of people, I had a gal post my Facebook wall. She said, what do you do if you're having a hard time getting interviews for your podcast? And me being kind of the realist, I replied, well, don't do an interview podcast.
Right.
And her response was, honestly, and you can look it up on my wall, she said, is that allowed? So, because so many people do interviews that everybody thinks it's interviews. So first of all, a podcast can be whatever you want it to be. A podcast can be as long or as short as you want it to be. So there might be some of you who weekly it's just exercise and motivation.
Okay, I like that.
A 5 to 7 minute monologue, if you will, getting you primed, getting you going. Maybe something to listen to on the way to, on the way to practice that week.
Right.
Is it called practice? What do you?
Yeah, practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the way to practice that week, So the thing about doing interviews is that interviews require a lot of coordination, and I know a lot of you are extremely busy. Mm-hmm. So to get, if you could get the local high school gym guy and a local community leader and that kind of stuff, that would be fantastic.
Right.
And it'd be a lot more entertaining, a lot more engaging, definitely. But coordinating that's going to be a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
So you kind of figure out what you want to do. Now, what could be interesting is if you were, if there's, I know a lot of dojos will work with other companies, and maybe it becomes the podcast for those organizations. Maybe you do weekly motivation and then once a month interviews.
Okay.
Or that type of thing. Honestly, ask your clients who come in, and that's the good ones, you know who they are. Ask them, hey, I'm about to launch a podcast. Something to listen to on the way to work. I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about this. What would make the most sense to you? And your audience will tell you, and especially because the cool thing is you get to see them. The majority of my podcast listeners, I don't get to see. That's why I go to 25K to meet my audience. But you get to see the people who come in. So say, hey, I want to do this. And here's the thing. If your audience reacts to the show, yes, 50 people, and you get 50 blank stares, that's called market research. Now doing the show and still advertising as seen on iTunes, as seen on Amazon, that might still be advisable for you, but that kind of market research. But I like the idea. In the early days of podcasting, there was a meteorologist, okay, who didn't have a job, and he wanted to hone his craft. So he produced, believe it or not, the Kansas City Weather Show. Yes, exciting.
Right.
And the Kansas City Weather Show, and he would just do the weather every morning for people to listen to my podcast. People started coming on the show. Local agencies wanted to start advertising on the show. And it became a thing all based around the weather. So local podcasts, very, very, very real. Now, are you going to make it to the top 10 of sports podcasts? No. But I'm not. My show's never hit the top 10 of anything because I have a niche market of podcasters, and I'm doing fine.
All right, absolutely. Now, I think you said I called you. I said you're like the godfather of podcasting. But you said, actually, Nick, there's a funny story.
We have to be careful. So, and I want to hear from you in the audience here. Does anybody, first of all, and I realize there's a bit of a delay, but does anybody know who invented podcasting? Okay? And we'll give a slight pause here. Here's the funny thing. Now, you're much younger than me. So you might have saw this in, reruns.
Okay.
But do you remember a little station called MTV?
Yep.
Do you remember Adam Curry?
Yes.
From the Headbangers Ball?
Yeah, I remember Adam Curry.
Adam Curry invented podcasting.
No way, really?
Yes.
Wow.
He is one of the smartest. If you ever get a chance to... And
oh, my God.
It's crazy. It's nuts. Yeah. And what's funny is I actually grew up in Europe. Okay. My folks worked for the U.S. military. And I was one of the cool kids who had German cable television in my house. Most of the kids lived on base. I lived off base. I had German cable television. And in German cable television, you would get some international shows. And I had the Dutch channel, Much Music. And Adam Curry actually came from Holland. A lot of people don't know that. So he honed his chops before he came to America. So when I went to America for college, all of a sudden they go, we got this new VJ, Adam Curry. Like, I know that guy. So I go back even before he came to America. So anyway, Adam Curry invented podcasting. And so out of reverence, we called him the Podfather. And so when people say, you're like the Godfather podcast, I thank you. I appreciate it. I miss my MTV too, James. And but yeah, he actually invented it, so we call him the Podfather. Right now, he does a wacky show called No Agenda. It's a news show. I wouldn't call it a conspiracy theory show, but it's fairly close. Yeah. But he's making a living. He's doing a great job. He's actually about to launch he's really obsessed with sound quality and that type of thing. He's about to launch a rig for podcasters to sound like a radio station. And that's going out soon. But yeah, Adam invented. So there we go. Now you can win on Jeopardy when somebody asks you who invented podcasting.
I took some notes right there. So okay, so I guess the next there'll be some questions coming from them. But my question for them would be: we talked about the content and getting it started. The book will give them the step-by-step instructions on how. And
the book's got links to a bunch of videos as well, so don't worry.
And the last thing I wanted to ask you, and we'll go to their questions, was you showed me some really cool tools and apps that were just mind blowing in my opinion to do this stuff. Like you really could do everything almost just from your phone.
Yeah. There are there's no governing authority in podcasting. There's no regulations in podcasting. There's some stuff. If you get explicit, Apple wants you to tag your stuff as explicit. And then if you get explicit and you're tagged as explicit, parents could set parental controls and that kind of thing. But that's it. Yeah. So there's nobody that checks. When I was in college, I studied to get my FTC license. I didn't get it because it was just too much work and it was college. College isn't about work. And so you can do whatever you want. So, iPhone. A lot of us have. What message? Oh, okay, that's your message. A lot of us have voice recorders on our iPhones. Many people can just blah 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 blah. Here's my podcast, and it doesn't have to sound like it's on a $200 microphone. Now, by the way, let me give you one microphone. I really like a microphone called the Nessie. The company's Blue. And the microphone's called the Nessie, and you can get that at Amazon for under $100. Okay, and it's an amazing microphone. It's a USB microphone. It'll plug into your Mac. It'll plug into your Windows machine, and actually, if you buy the camera adapter for your iPhone, it'll plug into that as well.
Oh, cool.
Okay, and that sounds great, especially for the price. But you can record it on any of the half dozen apps there's dozens of apps that will do audio recording on your phone. You can do it on Android as well. In the book, I give a couple of options. A couple of the crazy ones that are really interesting is there's an app on the iPhone called Dropvox, Dropvox. Yes, Scott, the Yeti is from Blue. The Yeti is the microphone that came before the Nessie. The Yeti's fantastic. And the Yeti's built like a tank, as you well know.
Right.
The only thing about the Nessie is the Nessie has that little switch at the bottom where your voice can sound bigger. And if you're worried about how your voice sounds, you can do that. But the Dropbox app is one that's really fun because I've got some clients who use this. Dropbox can be set up the second you're done. Well, actually, I'll pull it up because it's just so funny how simple it is. I'm into simplicity, which you'll see when you get the book. So there's the app. You can see the big red button, okay? Now, it's hard to miss the big red button, so check this out. So, all right, we're doing the show. You like doing the show?
Yes.
Answer my question.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. So we just did the show. So, it's clicking. So you see the timer, and then when you're done with the episode, you click stop, and then it automatically uploads your audio to Dropbox. And if you've got an assistant, the assistant takes the Dropbox and takes the file and then produces the podcast, because none of you, if you're in this guy's mastermind, you should not be editing your own podcasts. Okay? And so Dropbox is great. There's a company called Uber Conference. Uber Conference there's a free version. The paid version gives you, it's only $10 a month. The paid version gives you your own phone number. The free version, you have a generic phone number with a PIN. And what happens with Uber Conference is once more than one person is on the line, it's the conference part, it automatically records it.
Very cool.
So a lot of people don't know this, but Joe Polish does the I Love Marketing show. About 80% of the shows are actually recorded on Uber Conference. So Joe literally picks up the phone, Dean picks up the phone, and then they give the guy they're interviewing that phone number, and about 80% of the shows are just the recording from that.
That's awesome.
So it doesn't have to be a pro-sounding thing. Now, again, for under $100, you can sound pretty good. For under $500, you can sound fantastic. So you got to decide what it is that you want to do. But nobody's going to judge your content based on the audio, and if they are, they're not your customer. I've got one client who owns, also in 25K, he owns, I think, 18 grocery stores up in the Northeast. And what he does is he has a thing called Supermarket Talk, where he gives the update every week of what's happening in the stores. And sometimes he'll call in. They use Uber Conference as well. They'll call in from one of the stores, so you hear him. I'm at the I'm at the a little early in the morning. I'm at the Harlem store, and so he'll walk it through, and you'll hear as he's talking over the he's talking here, clean up on aisle 9, and but it's theater of the mind. It's reporting from the field. So if you were doing a report and there were kids making those noises in the background, theater of the mind. It sounds good. People are used to that kind of thing. So very, very doable. So
very cool.
Your phone already has it. The Dropbox app, which Manny has, I think it's like $3, Manny. It's not that expensive. Microphones for under $100.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, guys, real quick, let's post some questions that we have for anybody. Anybody who has any questions, post them in the thread. We have about 5 minutes, Paul. That's cool.
Okay. Yeah.
We're down. We're going to get breakfast.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm starving.
More coffee.
Do we want to go downstairs?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I think there's a couple questions came in earlier. Let's see what we have here. And guys, if you really give Paul some love by pressing the heart button, I'm sure that you guys really enjoyed his content and you're going to really enjoy his book. And thank you again, Paul, for taking the time. All right, so let's see. The hardest part of setting up my podcast was getting it available to people.
Right.
This is so dope. Okay, that's more of a statement. Scott, thank you. All right. If we are starting it, should we build a few casts up before we promote it?
Oh, that's a great question, Anthony. Okay, so how do I say this politically? Okay? There are a lot of people, this is one of the reasons why the book came out. There are a lot of people making a lot of money teaching you how to podcast. And one of the things they say is that you need to have 10 or so shows in the can, because when somebody subscribes to the show, you want them to get blah, 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 blah. Here's the fact of the matter is this, okay? If you go to a show and there's only one episode, you're definitely there at the beginning. And you want to promote it as there at the beginning. But if you go to your dojo and go, we're launching, we've got one show, and if the show's called premiere episode, a lot of people tell you got to have a lot of shows in there because they have a 30-day return policy on their training program, and nobody's going to get 10 episodes out within the 30 days. So you want to be careful there. It's a social proof thing. The more episodes I have, the more real I look. But the fact of the matter is, most people, I've launched a number of shows. I've launched over a dozen shows to number 1 in their category. Okay? And I've launched a number of people to top 10 in all of iTunes. And all the time I've done it with one show. Okay? Or most of the time I've done it with one show. Now, JJ Virgin, who we saw yesterday, she lets me tell the story. JJ didn't listen to me on this one. JJ launched with 3 episodes. Here's the thing about podcasting. When you subscribe to a show, it automatically downloads the most recent show. So JJ launched with 3 episodes. The intro to her show episode, then the first episode, the first episode that wasn't the intro, then the third. When we did the run, now we got her to number 4 of all iTunes, and you're going to see some stats today during the presentation that are going to blow your mind. We got her number 4 of all iTunes, but what was interesting was episode 3 was downloaded twice as much as episode 1. I'm sorry, 3 times as much as episode 1 and 2 combined. So the thing is, you could put 10 shows in there. You can do whatever you want, but realize when you start marketing, they're only going to get the most recent show.
Oh, wow.
So for many of you subscribing the show, you know, which one do you want them to listen to when you do your biggest promotion is kind of where you want to go. Patrick here wants to know, how do you name your show? I'll tell you. Topic, not talent. Okay, write that down. Topic, not talent. People aren't looking for you. As cool as you are, they're not looking for you. And by the way, you're going to be in the description anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Name it really simple. My book is called How to Podcast. My podcast, the report about podcasting, is called The Podcast Report. I would make it as simple, as easy as possible. People, there's one of my clients, a guy named Donald Miller. He has a thing he calls the grunt test. Can somebody look at your title or your website, grunt, and know what you're about? You know, and you know, if somebody has a show called, you know, Reflections from an Introverted Agnostic Painter, you know, really simple, really easy. What are people typing in? And here's the thing: nobody has a pen when you tell them the name of your podcast. So if they look it up, you know, if you have a name that gets spelled wrong, before we went live, you spelled my last name wrong. It happens. That's why I never have the word Cooligan in any of my titles. That's or anything. Exactly. Yeah. So really, really, really simple. Like Nick's Daily Dose, if we did a daily video, should the podcast be an audio copy or separate thing? Okay, so Daniel, can we do a poll here? Can we do a survey here?
Sure.
Okay. One of the things I'm talking to Nick about is, this is good. This is fantastic. And this time we were talking about, actually I have a book on live as well. It's called, you ready for this? How to Stream Video Live. and it's also $2.99 at Amazon. And I've been podcasting for over a decade. The live streaming thing, this is the first version of the book, so it's not quite as refined yet. I'm proud of it. But anyway, this is good. This is powerful. We were talking here about taking the Daily Dose, taking it off of Facebook and making it a podcast as well. And letting people who want to get up in the morning and run this while they're getting ready, great. And for those who want to listen to it, again, 47 million Americans in their car by themselves on their commute. Pretty much all of you drive to your dojos. And so you could listen to this in the car. Now, as good looking as this guy is, you can do the audio thing only. So you could do a daily video. You could get that done, do a daily audio. There are video podcasts as well. So I've got a client that I'm meeting with tomorrow, right? It's Friday. Yeah, I've got a client that I'm meeting with tomorrow here in Phoenix who wants to do the daily video show on Facebook. Actually, he's going to do a weekly video show on Facebook that we're just going to log in, take down the video, make the video podcast, and make the audio podcast. Never do it twice if you can only do it once.
Absolutely.
So Nick, if we did a daily video show, should our podcast be an audio copy or separate thing entirely? Here's the deal. Don't make it a separate thing. For goodness sakes, do a live video show that makes sense as an audio podcast.
Right.
Now, let me show you a trick, okay? So, if we're doing a video podcast, I'm not going to show you your Wi-Fi code here. But you know, if I tell everybody, okay, here's the Hilton Honors, you know, I'm Honors too, they didn't put me on the third floor. You know, here's the Hilton Honors code. Now, for everybody video, Hilton Honors code, you can see this, and you're wowed. And of course, it's Facebook, so it's backwards.
Right.
Now, people listening to the audio version of this, they're going, I can't see this, I can't see this. And it's true, they can't, it's only audio.
Right.
But here's what you do. It's really simple. What's your website?
TeamPerella.com.
TeamPerella.com?
Team Perella.
TeamPerella.com.
Yes.
And what episode is this?
This is episode 16.
All right. So, and for those of you listening to this in the car who can't see the video, just head out to TeamPerella.com/16.
That's awesome.
Here's the best part. Then there's a pop-up.
Cool.
To get the Hilton Honors Report, give me your name and email address. You're now getting names and email addresses of people. So you could talk in your podcast about an exercise. You could talk in a podcast about a video tour. You could talk in a podcast about a technique. And then say, look, I get it. On the audio version, you can't get it. No problem. Just head out to the website to do it. Bam. Now you got name and email addresses. By the way, which is my favorite way to make money on your podcast. So somebody liked that one. A couple people like that one. Yeah. The audience likes that one.
That was really
very, very cool.
Okay, let's see. We have time for like one more question. We called ours the Ninja Cast, and we have about 12 episodes. Is it too late to change the name oh, we wanted to.
Change the name if we wanted to.
Okay.
No. Here's the cool thing. Podcasting is very fluid, very flexible, and you can change the name and lose none of your subscribers.
Cool.
You will lose the direct link in iTunes. If you've been linking to it directly in iTunes before, you'd have to change that. But other than that, no, you're good to go. And I've had customers change name, artwork, the whole 9 yards.
And the last question from Scott. We do a live video on the 4th and record the audio for the podcast.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
Perfect.
Almost blocked them. All right, guys. Well, Paul, thank you. I guess could we put anything you want to announce or anything about that you already talked about the book?
Yep.
Guys, you definitely want to get it. And I'm trying to think what else.
Scott wants to know if NinjaCast is a bad name. Not necessarily. I mean, everybody knows how to spell ninja. Everybody knows what a cast is. That's not a bad one. It doesn't necessarily, anybody in your local area doesn't know that you have a local dojo, and that's your whole purpose is to sell your local dojo. So, but no, it's not a bad name at all. Now, if it was the some exotic form of ninjing that nobody knows how to spell, be careful.
Right.
And so, already about the book, great,
man, that's awesome.
I guess I'm buying breakfast.
Yeah, man.
That's free here at the hotel.
Is it? Actually, there's a place on the street I went to that's really good.
I'm good with that too.
It depends. They have skillets with all kinds of,
Ooh.
All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you. Give them some love, please, guys, and thank you. Like the post. We're going to send out the recording to everybody as well for that missed it. For those of you that did miss it, I think it's a mistake because this is, I believe, is one of the most important things. We talk about building your brand and trying to just give value. This is one of the best ways you can give value is by creating a podcast and sending out to your prospects and your leads. Wow, you're getting a lot of love there.
I'll take it.
It's really good.
They want to know book name, How to Podcast 2016. And for those of you smart people thinking, I'll wait for the 2017 version, if you buy the 2016 version, you register. By the way, it's only $2.99 on Kindle, so we can do this. If you register it, I email everybody who registers it an email link to get it at 99 cents when the new version comes out. And I'll tell you, it's not going to be probably March or April before it comes out.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you on next Monday. I'm done for the weekend. Again, we're for the holiday party for Team Perello, so stay tuned for some cool pictures on that. And then 8 o'clock Monday morning, I'll see you back then. So thanks so much, guys. Anything else you want to say?
Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.